एक मिनट के लिए भी we didn't talk about where I had studied and internet or retail or jewelry, nothing. We just spoke about sports. Life defining opportunity which you got. You were selected because of sports and not because of your degree or any such thing.
What would be the tools that you would advise startup companies today?
Tools are a little overrated, and even if you have poor tools, is a better situation than having all the tools and all the data in the world, but not knowing what questions need to be answered and what data are you really looking for. Because we thought that when a person will see HDFC Bank, they will feel that agar HDFC Bank gave them a payment gateway, they would have done their due diligence well. So while we were trying to build our own trust, we were also borrowing from the trust of the other people who we were partnering with. I have to help a lot of others because only then I can balance the good fortune that I have had in my life.
I think that's a beautiful thought. So Avnish, tell me, how are you?
I'm very good, Smita.
And how has it been post CaratLane? What are you doing now?
So it's actually been wonderful, and whatever I had in mind when I left CaratLane, I think all of that has happened and more. So that way I couldn't be happier. I think this is one of the few times where I have planned something and it's worked out well, because
Amazing,
most of the times things which I didn't plan have been more useful, and most of the planned things have not played out the way I thought they would in life. But I think this is one big exception. So what I've been doing is that I've been trying to just get a little more balance in life in terms of health and family and friends.
Correct.
That is one important part. And a lot of things which I didn't have time for earlier, including meeting a lot of founders, like literally 3 or 4 every day.
Amazing.
So I did that for a long time, and I still do that. And then, spending more time on other interests which I had. So that has been happening. So it's been wonderful that ways. And I was also trying to figure out, what I should do in terms of work. So after talking to a lot of people and thinking about what would be right for me, I finally figured that investing would be the best thing for me. So in January, I joined a fund called Singularity Ventures to do investing in consumer businesses.
Okay.
That also, it reminds me so much about CaratLane, because it doesn't feel like work so much. Because that also involves meeting founders and investors and talking about businesses and what is happening on the consumer space, which is something I was doing when I didn't join also, when I was in the middle between CaratLane and Singularity. So it, in some ways, like CaratLane was a job which was not a job, right? Which you just enjoyed doing every day. So this also is now starting to at least feel like that. Although there are many differences and there are lots of new things which I have to learn now, which I'm trying to learn, because investing requires a lot of finance and all, which is not really my strength, at least. So I'm figuring those things out. So that also is interesting, because, at this age also there's something new which you have to learn and almost start from scratch. So on the whole, if I put all of this together, I'm doing stuff which I, as in work is again something which I'm enjoying a lot. I'm doing things which I didn't have time for. I have time for people which I didn't have earlier. And I have time for myself to do stuff which I didn't have earlier. And for the first time in my life, I think I have a little focus on health and, to make sure that your fitness and health level.
Correct.
So I think that ways I'm very fortunate, fingers crossed, that this time I think there is far more balance, and all the parts of life seem to be in more harmony, essentially.
No, because I think that's what we are also trying to aim here, right? We want most of our listeners to take insightful takeaways. They could be a young professional or a budding entrepreneur or somebody who started their journey, right? But needs that shift or one idea that could actually move needle in their business, right? So it could be a traditional jeweler who is looking, now he sees that e-commerce is coming in, what do I do new to my business? Or it could be somebody in an unorganized space who wants to explore new avenues, right? So our aim is to help those professionals and startup entrepreneurs through
my own agenda in life, one of the important agendas is to actually I feel very, very lucky in life that the simple fact that I'm in this situation in life and everything which happened in the last many years, I think I have been incredibly lucky, both in my personal capacity and even for what happened to CaratLane. And somewhere I feel ki I have to help a lot of others to kind of get my karmic balance also.
True.
So that is also something which is very important, which is why, you know, a lot of these founders where I have these agenda-less conversations with them is to actually, you know, give back or help. And I know it sounds very cliched, but in my mind, I really feel almost like a pressure that I have to do a lot of this because only then I can balance the good fortune that I've had in my life.
Correct. I think that's a beautiful thought. So, Avnish, your journey itself has been very unique and inspiring for most of us, right? So, you started off as the first employee at CaratLane to eventually becoming the co-founder there. And I've read that, you know, if you go down the memory lane, that you've coming from IIM Lucknow, then working with MNCs like Oneida and Standard Chartered. When that first, call or offer from CaratLane came, didn't it feel like a huge risk, and especially financial risk? What age were you then?
See, I was 28 then.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what happened. See, the thing is that, growing up or coming from a small town and from a service class background, this was supposed to be the path to nirvana in life, right? That you go and study in some good places.
Correct.
And you get a job in a MNC and your life is set.
True.
So I kind of went down that path and then I realized that it wasn't, that nirvana which was told that it would be. So I was actually very unhappy and, I had this very restless feeling then. And I used to wonder as to, is this how life will eventually be? And, I almost thought that there is nothing exciting which is happening. So there was that restlessness and that unhappiness which was there. And I just wanted to do something which would challenge me more or was more exciting or more fun. And so I was kind of looking for that and figuring out what to do, right? Unfortunately, there was also this problem that in India, if you want to change industries or career path, it's very hard.
Correct.
Because you become a prisoner of your past experience. So I also encountered that. So in that sense, I was almost feeling stuck. I can only be in this career path which I'm not enjoying so much, and I'm not enjoying the corporate world also. So when the CaratLane thing came, I think I saw it in 2-3 ways. One, I clearly saw that this was definitely more exciting and more interesting than anything which I was doing. So I saw the positive side of it, what it could become. And then I also thought that what is the worst thing which will happen? The worst thing which would happen is that in 2-3 years, the company might close. But even that 2-3 years of experience working for a consumer internet company, a retail e-commerce company, would at least give me some experience which actually would at least allow me to change tracks to get into something which I would possibly enjoy more. On the financial side, see, we had just gotten married, but we didn't have kids, so we were not having so much of a financial commitment or obligation in life. And at the same time, I think obviously my wife was very supportive. I think my parents were very supportive, and they told me that if you want to do this, worst case, if this closes and you don't have a job, then we'll financially support you also for a while.
Wow, amazing.
So I think it is thanks to my parents and my wife and also to my own dissatisfaction. So people ask me, right, how did you take this plunge? Actually, it was more the disinterest and unhappiness rather than saying that this is the great opportunity. And this is the part which I mentioned earlier, that this was not like a planned thing.
Correct.
And this is how most of my life has been, that it happened in the most unplanned manner. And funny thing that in the conversation which I had with Mithun when I met him for the first time, see, we had a 2-hour chat. 1 minute ke liye bhi we didn't talk about, where I had studied and internet or retail or jewellery, nothing. We just spoke about sports. Okay. I used to do a lot of blogging on sports at that point in time. So he saw that somewhere in my resume and then he started asking about it because Mithun is also a big sports fan. So आप समझो कि 2 घंटे के conversation में 1 hour 40 minutes would have been on sports only. So in a way, if you think about it, he possibly hired me because of my interest or passion for sports, which is also unplanned, right? You never know that you will,
Correct.
this life defining opportunity which you got actually happened where your selection happened, or you were selected because of sports and not because of your degree or any such things. And I think that is how life is very funny. So you never know how things will play out. But essentially, to very, very long answer to your question was that it was not something which was planned, or I thought and evaluated that opportunity. It was how my life was at that point in time, that I was unhappy with how things were, so I was willing to ignore the risks of what I was trying to do.
Correct.
And just look at the positives. And then even the downside was kind of underwritten by my parents. So then I said, "Okay, let's see."
But does that happen with you also when you take interviews? Because sometimes it's the people, right? It's not the organization. It is about how do you gel with that person, how that person comes across. So do you also, when you're taking interviews, right, for your team, does that play a role currently?
Meaning
when you are recruiting somebody in your team?
So see, I have also recruited a lot of people where I have not just recruited them based on their functional skills and experience. See, sometimes for certain roles, you need people who need to have certain skills, right? Like if you are hiring a UX person, or if you are hiring somebody to do performance marketing, or if you are hiring somebody to be head of design, then certain skill sets are needed to do that job, right? But I will also look at what else they have done in life, how they think, how they work with other teams, what is their attitude in life, do they have enough agency or not. And for some roles, I have given opportunities to people who had absolutely no background in that. I have given such opportunities to people in product management roles, even business roles, or marketing or category management roles, where people didn't have any relevant background, but they had showed, great commitment, and they had done a very good job in their previous roles. And I thought that their attitude was amazing. And the role didn't require so much technical skills. And I thought that because they were good analytically and they could think well and they could solve problems well and they had great desire, that they would eventually end up doing this job well. And in many cases that has played out, and which has actually reinforced my conviction that a lot of times we should not over index for past experience, essentially. In fact, if you think about it, in CaratLane, many of the roles which I have played, I myself had no past experience in that.
Correct, yeah.
And I had no background or no technical training in that. But I was lucky that I got the chance to learn and figure out how to do it and then do it. So, in a way, I'm also influenced by my own experiences. That if it could happen to me, then, you can give others also a chance.
Too. Makes sense. So coming to CaratLane's journey, right? When I see CaratLane, I see a lot of resilience and agility. So you all started off, I think, focusing on diamond, then moved to jewelry based on a market research.
No, we actually, initially the plan was to sell solitaires. And then just before we were going to launch, we did a consumer survey and we realized that Indian market itself was not ready. For solitaires. Then we figured that let's do diamond jewelry.
Acha. So something similar even in your campaigns, right? So somewhere I heard or read that initially you all were focusing on young women, and later on realized that mothers and grandmothers play a huge role when it comes to purchasing jewelry.
Yeah, I call them micro influencers.
Yeah.
Because they are the one, and I'll tell you how this happened. So हम लोग पहले यही लगता था कि this kind of jewelry, the slightly older woman would not wear. So we would only target a woman between 26 to 40 or 35 years of age. Largely, that's how all our campaigns would run. But I have this other habit, right, that everyone I would meet, I would ask them कि आप jewelry कहाँ से खरीदते हो? And do you know about CaratLane? And like everybody, but I would go to school for PTA meetings, ask the teacher. I would go to the hospital, ask the doctor. I would just, if I just met you at some other randomly at whichever place, I would ask you. So a lot of the women who would come to office, right, these younger women from the various companies we would work for. So I would ask them, and inevitably they would say, "Ki, Avnish, but when it comes to jewelry, my mom told me to buy this, or my mother-in-law told me this."
Correct.
And I would wonder, ki, these young women, right, who are well educated and well qualified, they take all the big decisions of their life on their own. You know, वो घर खरीद रहे हैं अपने से, they are buying cars, they are making career choices. But when it comes to jewelry, their mom or their mother-in-law is telling them. And they would also tell me that my mom saw it on Facebook and she said, "Hare, you should try this. The jewelry is nice." So then we realized that they might not be buying it for themselves, but they are definitely buying it for their daughters or daughter-in-laws, and they're definitely influencing their choices also.
Correct.
So then we have to, you know, market to them and show them our jewelry and start engaging with them. So we started doing this. So, you know, इसी तरह से I think the whole CaratLane journey is full of such
Correct.
small insights which you got, which kind of change the way you would think and you would do stuff.
So my question is, so lot of early stage founders basically they do not want to launch out of the fear that they might go wrong. So based on your experience, right, what do you think, like launching a pilot versus waiting for that perfect strategy, right? What would you advise young entrepreneurs?
See, how can you know what is the perfect strategy without doing it?
Correct.
It is impossible to know that this is the perfect strategy, right? Because the world is so complex and we are in consumer businesses where consumer behavior is so unpredictable.
Correct.
That the smartest people in the world, you know, or the most well thought out strategies in the world also might not play out like that. So I think you have to try and then see what works and what doesn't work. And I think at least we have done that always. You know, what you should also, however, be mindful of, that certain decisions can be fatal. Certain choices. You know, if you want to spend 50 crores on a campaign and you're a new startup, and if it doesn't go well and you lose 50 crores, that can be fatal. So the only caution is to avoid doing stuff which can be fatal. But other than that, I think you have to keep trying and keep doing things. There is no other way to do it.
Makes sense. So CaratLane basically changed how the whole industry was working, right? You all brought e-commerce into a historically offline model, and which was very much trust driven. So what was that initial challenges that you all went through? I know that the infrastructure was not ready at that point in time, but other than that, how did this whole consumer shift happen for you?
Consumers buying online?
Buying online, yeah.
See, so obviously the biggest problem to solve for was trust, right? The other thing which actually very few people realize is that, you know, while we brought digital methods or digital business model, we also started making and investing in making beautiful jewelry at sub 20K price points, which nobody was doing. People would have jewelry at these price points, but you know, they would not put in a lot of effort to design them well and to market them well.
Correct.
So that was also like a clear white space for us. See, we not only did we put in a lot of effort to design beautiful jewelry at those price points, but we also put in a lot of effort in how they were shot and the imagery and all of those things. So see, the way it happened is that first, obviously, people saw the jewelry which was not available, so they were interested. But obviously, they had this questions in their mind: what is this new company? How will we buy from them? This was also the time when a lot of internet businesses were scams, you know, and used to have this term called fly-by-night operators. So we were mindful of that. So what we would do is that each and every interaction whatever could help in building trust with the customer, we would try and do that. So that is why, while we could have easily started the business with a CC Avenue payment gateway, we went with HDFC Bank, because we thought that when a person will see HDFC Bank, they will feel that if HDFC Bank gave them a payment gateway, they would have done their due diligence well. Same way we went for logistics with Blue Dart, because again, a renowned, reputed name. So while we were trying to build our own trust, we were also borrowing from the trust of the other people who we were partnering with, right? Plus, you know, when you have a nice looking website, nice imagery, you know, the professional feel which you get, you feel that this must be like a proper professional setup, right? Not some random people who just opened a website. Plus, we put in a lot of thought in our policies, in our packaging, so that everything would signal to the customer that this is a high quality professional setup, right? Then, you know, literally, I would say that while people were interested in the jewelry and they would call us, a lot of them obviously were very, very unsure ki, how can you buy from this, right? And this is not like a 2,000 rupee product. And to give you a sense, us samay the marketplaces pe where we tried, and at that time there was Rediff and India Times. I don't even know if people today remember those names. The thing was they would tell us ki make something for 800 rupees or 1,000 rupees because that was the kind of price point which would sell online. So selling some, today people buy 15,000, 20,000 ka products very easily, but back in the day, 1,000 also was a hard price point. So we would actually, because we had an office in Chennai, we would literally target more people on our marketing from Chennai only. And we would tell them ki aap office aa jao, we'll talk to you, so that you can see that we are not like a fly-by-night operator. Sometimes I've gone to people's homes also to convince. So shuru mein, you were literally trying to convince each and every customer one by one, like individually, till the time you got to like 100 customers. And we were hoping that once people saw the jewelry, right, when they bought the jewelry and they wore it and they started getting compliments and they saw that the quality was great and the designs were pretty, then obviously they will start to trust us. And this is what exactly happened. And I also used to chase people, I chased everybody in my friend and family network to buy if there was a wedding or any other occasion. And bahut log were kind enough and they actually bought, it's not that they bought without reason. They had to buy. Instead of buying from some other jeweler, they bought from CaratLane's. But I am again very, very grateful to all of them. But you had to literally go and get one by one customers karke and get to 100 before the quality of the product and the fact that our experience was good slowly started to be visible to people. And then thoda word of mouth started to happen. But I think that's true for any consumer business, that in the initial period, forget about scale. You have to literally go and hunt for each and every customer.
True. So what is your take on tier 2 and 3 versus tier 1 cities? So I know you're a very data driven person, right? Even your retail manager has the browsing data of the catchment area, right? Tell me that, have you seen the difference, like how a campaign run in tier 2 and 3 works versus tier 1? Because I hear a lot of startups saying that tier 2 and 3 convert faster than tier 1. What has been your experience?
See, actually, there is no like a rule that tier 2, tier 3 converts better. It all depends on the category and the and the business and the brand also.
Correct.
In our case, obviously, see what happens is that in India, everybody has a family jeweler, right?
True.
A person who stays in the same town where they grew up, they will have 500 people around them who will tell them that you should go to this jeweler only, and that because that is the most trustworthy guy and the best guy. As compared to that, somebody who doesn't live in their hometown, who lives in another city, doesn't have a family jeweler and doesn't have 500 people telling him or her that you go and buy from your family jeweler only. So rather than tier 1 versus tier 2, we had the biggest success with what I call urban migrants.
Okay.
People who move from their hometowns and live in other cities. Like I am from Ranchi, right? I don't have a family jeweler in Bombay. So it is easier to convert Avnish, who lives in Bombay, as compared to if I was living in Ranchi.
Correct.
So that, and the reality is that where will you find more urban migrants? You will find more urban migrants in tier 1 cities.
True.
And because of that, we had a lot of success initially with tier 1. But you will find enough urban migrants in tier 2, tier 3 towns also, because even in government jobs, people move from one city to the other, right?
Correct.
Also, in terms of the design language, it obviously appealed more to the more contemporary woman. The woman who, because our kind of jewelry is not very, very relevant for very ethnic occasions. Although people wear that and there's enough stuff which we make. But it is more relevant for, casual occasions and parties and office wear and stuff. So you think about it, right? Where do women have more occasions like that to wear? It is obviously in the urban places. So which is why there was more acceptance and it was easier to build there. But we have had great success in tier 2, tier 3 towns also. At the same time, we have also made changes in our merchandise, in our marketing to adapt our business to whatever was the need of that smaller town. So for example, we have gone to smaller towns where we've used local influencers, for example, because they have a lot of clout.
Correct.
Right? We have tried some methods of offline marketing or other channels which we would have not tried in bigger towns. We have, but other than that, I think largely the playbook has stayed the same. Sometimes we have introduced some new designs which are more relevant for that region, for example. In terms of, so it's not been very, very different that ways. I think I would say 80% of what we do in terms of our marketing or the way we target people or our merchandise or offers has been the same, irrespective of which part of India it was. Thoda then you tweak certain parts so that you can, based on the local customer behavior or the local geography.
Makes
but
sense.
That's it. But I would not say that this would be true for every category.
Correct.
This clearly is true for us. I'm sure in other categories it would be very different.
Makes sense. So you mentioned about using local influencers, right? So is there, I know for any good company, right, there is one thing is product. Your product has to be good, but then eventually it has to become a brand to scale, right? So did CaratLane initially have good products according to you, or did you all have good products and you did a good campaigning, branding around it? What do you think, according to you, went right during
actually,
CaratLane?
my theory on this is that you build brand in three ways, right, or through three methods. One is obviously through your product, and your product experience. Second is through the whole customer experience, right? And then the third part is through communication. So, isme, what is the easiest one, because it costs less money, is to focus on the product and the experience part, right? Because building brand through communication requires a lot of money, obviously. So, if I look at our journey, we started doing the first two parts really well from the beginning. And that really helped us, not only build the brand, but also get a lot of customers, get word of mouth, all of those things. And I think from the very beginning, we were very, very focused on that. And I think those two things have really helped in creating the CaratLane brand. I think the communication part, we have struggled, or rather we struggled for a long time. When we got funded, we spent a lot of money, we would do TV and all, but I don't think we got our messaging right. So in fact, we didn't do such a great job of it, the communication part to build a brand. And obviously it costs money, right? And you have to spend money regularly. But I think in the last 4 or 5 years, we got a better handle on it, on getting the communication piece also more right.
Was that because of social media?
No, actually, I don't think it was because of social media. I think we understood our customers better. We understood what they wanted and why they were buying from us beyond just the design. See, we always knew that customers love us because of design and our customer experience. But I think after that, we started to understand, their emotional needs also, which we were satisfying. And we started understanding the different segments, type of customers, their buying occasions, their motivations much better. And we also understood what we stood for. Like, what was the role of CaratLane in the customer's life? It was not just to give them beautiful jewelry, right? I think once we understood that, then I think, because you understood the customer as well as you understood our role in their life. So then I think clarity on what needs to be communicated became just better. And then, once you have clarity on that, then I think it becomes easy to come up with better communication.
So what would be the tools that you would, or digital tools that you would advise startup companies today? With so much data available, right? How do they have a strategy around what data should be pulled out, what should be done, as well as what are the tools that you used, maybe in CaratLane or any other startups that you've come across, which would help initial, startup entrepreneurs to just start off with some data analytics?
See, if you're only asking about data analytics, then I'll tell you, as in, you have to actually go the other way around. Rather than starting to say what data we need and what analytics tools we need, you have to first say, what decisions do we have to make every day? What decisions or what problems need to be solved, or what do we need to know about our business and our customer? And which is in, like, writing it in English, right? Then once you know that, okay, this is what we need to understand about our business or our customers, Then you need to say, okay, what data will help us answer these questions? So then you understand, okay, these are the data points which we need, right? And you will realize that often many of those data points will not be easily available.
Correct.
And I'll give you one such example. One such example is word of mouth. I told you earlier, right, that it was very important for us that where our customers loving our jewelry and our experience so much that they would tell others, and because of that others would come and buy. There is no analytics tool in the world. So one is that this was an important problem for us, right, to see whether people were really loving us or not. And for that, knowing about word of mouth was very important. So then step 2 is to know, okay, what will tell you about word of mouth? Obviously, there is no data which is available. So no tool in the world can solve that problem for you. So then we have to just rely on doing lots of surveys and asking customers and asking new customers to understand actually how many of them were referred by others, how many of them had been gifted CaratLane jewelry by somebody else, because of which they came to know about CaratLane and then they wanted to buy that. तो ये कोई tool आपको नहीं बता सकता, right? But at the same time, there were lots of other tools which we used, which helped us for other stuff.
Okay.
Whether it is for our marketing or our product management or understanding the website behavior or even understanding store behavior. But I think, tools are a little overrated because I think that unless and until, you know what use cases and you need to understand or what problems need to be solved and exactly what data will help you answer the questions you are trying to answer, none of the tools and none of the data helps. And I think knowing good problems and knowing exactly what data you need, and even if you have poor tools, is a better situation than having all the tools and all the data in the world, but not knowing what questions need to be answered and what data are you really looking for.
But if you have to give me 1 or 2 names of the tools, just if I'm a store in Powai and I have access.
See, actually tools नहीं चाहिए. I'm telling you so much. See, what do you want to know? You want to know कि जो भी आपके store में आ रहा है, you first want to understand कि what got them into the store.
Correct.
Whether it was your marketing or somebody told them, right? Yeah. That no tool in the world will tell you. So, and it is very important to understand that. What made them come to the store? Because only when you know what is bringing them to the store that you can do more of that, right? Then you want to know कि store के अंदर क्या हुआ. So unfortunately today also you don't have very good tools which tell you what happened inside the store and did we do a good job of that or not. Then you want to know if there's an existing customer who comes, what is their past purchase history, what can you do. You want to understand what was the conversion inside the store. For many of these things actually, and I'm just referring to a store example because you mentioned that, actually very few tools are available. In fact, all the tools which we use inside the store are all homegrown, built by CaratLane.
Understood.
So I can't even give you a reference saying you should use this CRM or this store application or this tracking application. In fact, there is stuff which we still do manually. Achha. So in CaratLane, every store gets audited where somebody actually watches the CCTV footage to see कि वो customer आया and whether they were handled well or not.
Okay.
And what is that we're not doing well. So I think tools, I'm not saying are not useful and there are great tools out there. But like I said, right, in our case, none of the tools which are available were right for us. Because a lot of tools don't get designed for jewelry businesses. Correct. They get designed for fashion, electronics, food businesses possibly. So we had to build it. So this example therefore and what worked for CaratLane is not relevant, say, if you were starting a fashion business.
Correct.
So you have to, but if you have got great clarity on your business, what is that I need to understand better about my business and my customer which will help me become successful, and what data points will help me answer that question.
Yeah.
If you just understand that well, then then you will not have to worry so much about tools actually.
Correct. Makes sense. So another point is when I heard a podcast where Mithun mentioned that at CaratLane till lately you all didn't have designations, and
actually eventually we had to have. But शुरू में क्या हुआ ना, for the longest time, जैसे when I first joined CaratLane, nobody told me this is your designation. But because to go meet people, I needed to have a designation.
Correct.
So I just said कि ठीक है, I'm a marketing manager types. And for the longest time, people had this freedom that depending on their role, not based on their hierarchy or their level, but more on what they were doing, people would get roles like that. And we would be okay ki, there was no level structure and it was not a very tight structured hierarchy like most organizations have. बहुत दिन तक वैसे चला काम, and we were all happy and nobody complained. But eventually, as the organization become bigger and more complex, and then there are certain times, where certain decisions are made based on your level.
Correct.
So it was actually then it started to create a little confusion and unhappiness. If you had to select, say, 50 people to go for an offsite, who was selected and who was not, then people would think that, in an organization, if it is done based on level, then it is very clear, right?
Correct.
Everybody above this level has been selected. Above, we didn't have levels. So then people would sometimes think that I was not selected because he doesn't like me. When those problems started to happen, then we realized, ki, boss, now we need to have levels.
Yeah.
Because people are now starting to wonder if there is favoritism in the organization.
Correct.
So we had to finally put levels, not because we thought let's get these fancy designations, but more because we wanted to solve for other organizational problems which start to happen when there are no designations and hierarchy.
Okay. And I think most of startups or small companies work in this way, right?
Initially. I'm not sure because I've seen fancy designations in a lot of very, very young startups also.
Oh, really?
See, what depend karta na, it is also possible to attract good talent.
Correct.
Sometimes you need to give them great designations, so then you don't have a choice. But I think we were able to manage without that for the longest time. And it's one less problem to have to deal with. But I think eventually uski zarurat pad hi gayi.
So generally when an organization starts, what do you think is a good model for them to attract good talent? Is it like incentive model works or ESOP model works?
See, today, because there have been so many success stories.
Correct.
See, it actually depends on that person's the level at which they are joining and their compensation also. Because sometimes if you have enough, you are earning enough money to take care of all your needs, your basic needs as well as some of your discretionary needs.
Correct.
And the extra money is just going to go into savings. Then you might be more willing to take ESOPs because you want to have more upside because all your needs are taken care of.
Correct.
Right? So you want to do wealth creation. But if all my needs and my plans are not yet taken care of, then I don't want to invest in, or I don't want to take a chance where there's a probability of success, even though the amount might be much higher, because I have not taken care of my, all my life's needs. That person would be more interested in more fixed or, variable compensation, but at least something which is more assured.
Makes sense. Fair point. I think we've spoken about the business model, brand. We've spoken about technology, data. We've also spoken about the people part of it. So I think the fourth pillar I generally speak about is processes. How important do you think a company that could be a startup or could be a small organization, processes are? Because
processes, I think for a startup initially, and this is my own personal view, actually slow things down.
Oh, is it? Acha.
Yeah. Because, every time, sometimes decisions have to be made quickly.
Correct.
So if yesterday, suppose you didn't do revenue well, so then your marketing team needs to quickly make a change to make sure that today your revenue is better.
Correct.
And there has to be a degree of local autonomy which teams need to have, because otherwise there cannot be any agility in the organization.
Correct.
One is for agility, and also second because they know the problems better because they are facing it directly. If you put processes for everything, then none of this happens. There is no agility, there is no local autonomy, there is no taking advantage and moving quickly and taking advantage of local knowledge. I think more than processes, I think you need to have principles which allow for decision making, and guardrails. What I mean by principles is that, you need to tell them that depending on this situation, these are things which you can do and these are things which you cannot do. So for example, if you have set a threshold that, okay, as long as we are achieving these numbers, even if you spend more money on marketing, you don't have to come and take permission from me every time. So then your marketing team quickly responds.
Correct.
Same thing, say for your category team, if they have to order inventory or they have to do. So if you have set the guardrails, then it becomes very easy. And similarly for principles, we were always very clear that we will not do any business in any category which had low gross margin.
Okay.
So when the design team or merchandise team is doing anything, they don't have to go and check whether we can do this or not. If it is not meeting that principle, that it is low margin, then you don't waste your time and don't waste anybody else's time also.
Makes sense.
So I think I personally believe that more than process, you need guardrails and you need principles and you need alignment on what are the big goals.
Correct.
So if you have alignment on the big goals and there is clarity on the big goals, then you don't have to, as long as people know that where do I have to reach and they are following that path, then you don't have to keep, why do you need a navigator? Agar if you suppose we have to go from here to Worli and I tell you that we have to reach Worli in 1 hour,
correct.
maximum 1.5 hours, and you are driving, then you can change your path, you can increase your speed, you can do whatever. I am only interested that in 1.5 hours maximum, ideally in 1 hour, we should reach Worli.
Yeah.
So you will know. But if I don't tell you these things, then I have to keep guiding you every step. No, take a left, take a right, take a left, now go fast. So, and you can have a great process to inform that, but I would rather that I tell you where we have to go and there is clarity, there is boundary conditions, guardrails, etc. And then I let you drive.
Achha. But once you scale,
even
then, oh, interesting.
See, again, I don't think there's anything which is right or wrong. This also comes from what you can execute, the kind of people you have,
correct.
The kind of culture which you have built. It's not that this is a proven formula and you can just go and copy paste it in any organization. It all depends how the leadership reacts, how effectively you have created delegation processes. Again, wrong word, but how well have you delegated stuff and how much autonomy you have built, what kind of teams do you have, what is their level of understanding and ownership of things. Only if all of those pieces are in place that you can work like that. It might not work in many other places. And see, you have to think about it. Mithun never worked in a large corporate organization.
Correct,
I hated my life in a corporate. So in a way, we have been very anti of certain things which work in large corporates. So isliye we would always try and find a way which was not how a big company would behave.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So I think this is my last question to you. So you've also mentioned that there was that Zen moment where you couldn't, know what time you are with family, what is work, right? That
it is Zen, but it was painful for a lot of other people. Yeah.
So looking back, how do you think, or what would you advise younger generation today, that is there a balance possible between that passion and life?
See, my theory or my belief on that is very simple. That extraordinary outcomes come from extraordinary effort.
Correct.
In this world, you look at anything which is very, very rewarding. Whether you have to get into the best college, like less than 1% people get into those colleges.
Correct.
Right? If you want to be promoted or want to get a great designation in an organization or a great role, again, it will happen to very few people.
Correct.
Think about the number of startups which start and the number which becomes truly successful. It's a very, very small percentage. So just imagine that if the success percentage for anything is like 0.1%, which means it is very, very hard, right? So in a situation like that, if you are not going to work harder and show, and also work smarter and have greater commitment than the 99.9% people who you are competing with,
correct,
you will never get extraordinary outcomes. So while today I'm seeking work-life balance, but I don't look back at my previous life and say ki I wasted my time or I should not have done that. Because to get that kind of outcome, to create that kind of company, you needed that kind of dedication, and we expected it from the others also. And we were ready to do it ourselves also. So my thing is that, if you want balance, then, the outcomes will also be balanced.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you want extraordinary outcomes in life, then you have to put in effort and commitment, which is also disproportionate.
Correct.
And it happens in all walks of life. But we look at sports people, right? And we think that they are very talented, and which is why they are playing for India or playing for whichever team. We don't know the effort they have put in and the hours of work which they have done to reach that level.
Correct. That is true.
Nobody in life, nothing in life comes easily without putting in disproportionate effort. So, I am very happy and proud of the fact that I did that, whatever I did, because without that, I would not have gotten whatever I have gotten in life. It is possible that, sometimes you put in disproportionate effort and you still don't get the reward. But nobody gets disproportionate reward without putting in that effort.
Yes.
So you understand that, right? So my advice is very simple. If you want those things in life, then you have to do that. If you don't want it, then you can do whatever you want.
So since your now vision is basically to help, entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, so where can they connect with you? Is there a
People reach out to me on LinkedIn all the
Okay.
time. Yeah, and sometimes they get their my number or my email from somebody, and they also reach out to me.
Okay.
So I have a steady stream of people who are continuously reaching out, and then I'm continuously meeting people also. Like after this session also, I'm going to go meet somebody.
Wow.
Yeah, who's starting a business, which is very interesting. I think people have figured out a way, and my thing is very simple. I respond to most of the messages or whatever I get, whether it's on WhatsApp or LinkedIn. My only thing is that you should make an effort to make a good pitch.
Correct.
That what is that you're doing which is interesting, and what specific thing which you need help on, and how I can help you. If you just say I want to meet you, or you look at my resume, I am also a little particular about my time, that how can I make it
Correct.
Work best for everybody and myself. So my only thing is that send me very specific requirements and about what you're doing and what you want for me, because then I also cannot humanly try and meet everybody or answer everybody.
Correct.
So that is how my filter works. So I'm also giving you the formula of how you can get my attention. So just do that.
Interesting. So I think, can we close with a rapid fire round? Quick ones.
Sure.
So one book that changed your perspective on business or life?
I would say business was this book called Competing Against Luck.
Okay.
And life would be, I think, this book called Think Again.
Okay. Interesting. One mistake you think every entrepreneur should make once?
All kinds of mistakes, like wrong hires, wrong experiments. You spend money and you make a mistake. Because I think entrepreneurs need to make a lot of decisions quickly.
Correct.
So I think you should make quick decisions and then learn from them. You should not make fast decisions or wait for too much data. So I think you have to learn to make decisions with less information quickly and learn from them.
Makes sense. Diamonds, gold, silver or platinum? What's your personal choice?
For my own consumption or to build a business?
No, for your own consumption.
Actually, none of those. Yeah.
If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Actually, I would, that's a difficult one, but I would say start learning from other people's mistakes quickly. What happens in life is that jab tak we don't do it ourselves, we don't learn those things, and which is why you learn about life when you reach your 40s. But because we feel that my life will be different, so I would just tell them that your life will also not be different. It will be the same as all the people who have come before you. So then learn from their mistakes and don't assume your life will be different.
Makes sense. If you weren't building business, what would you be doing?
See, initially for the longest time, I wanted to do some work in sports.
Acha.
Unfortunately, I never got an opportunity, although I tried. So I think today there are so many more opportunities in sports, right? Because there are so many leagues and also that could have been one thing. I think I also wanted to go into the army once upon a time. I don't know, possibly these are some of the things which have happened. But see, it also depends on if I was the same person, right, with the same strengths and weaknesses and interests, then I feel that the chances of me getting into business are very high because I don't have technical capabilities on a lot of things.
Okay.
But I think if this had not happened, then I would have been in possibly one of these things, or possibly I don't know. I sometimes feel I would have possibly become a journalist.
Acha. Okay.
But yeah, possibly one of those things.
Because I've read your blogs; they are very interesting. So yeah, maybe
possibly because of that.
But are you investing in any of the sports as of now?
I am. See, there are two types of investing which I do. One is that we invest from the fund, so we invest in late stage companies.
Okay.
So it's not that I would look at a sports business and do it because of my interest, because I would not then do a good job as an investor, right? Because you have to make sure that our investors' money is paid back to them with great returns. in my own personal capacity, there was one business I wanted to invest in, which was in sports, which I possibly was going to do because of my interest only. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But yeah, possibly in the future also, I might invest or contribute money to. In fact, I've given money to things which are around sports.
Okay.
And that I would want to do because, you know, there is no obligation of an return or anything. You can just do it because of it. I think I like it that way, possibly. But if yes, there is a great business built around sports, then yeah, I would be more than happy to invest.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Avnish.
And my
Thank you
pleasure,
for your
Smita.
time.
Yeah.